It's night 8 of our 13 nights of Halloween, and tonight we're headed into the woods.
That's right. Bring your map, pack your high 8 camcorder, and prepare to cry in a tent because we're talking about the Blair Witch Project.
And this isn't just any episode. This is a big one for us, Stephen and us. Not only are we doing one of the most influential horror films of the 90s, but this is our 100th episode.
Oh, wow.
And I should clarify, it is the 100th movie review episode. I'm not counting Dread Broadcast and I'm not counting our TV shows, but this is the 100th movie we are discussing.
That is right. Hundreds of movies, monsters, questionable choices, and tonight's movie, one of the boldest experiments in horror history. That's right. We're talking about the Blair Witch Project. A movie that didn't just scare you, it possessed you. This thing had 90s moviegoers in a chokehold, and half of them walked out of the theater thinking it was real.
With its lo-fi terror and brilliant use of suggestion, this film wasn't just a cultural moment, it was a monster. Made for pocket change and marketed like a missing person documentary, the Blair Witch Project shattered the box office, reshaping the horror genre, and birthed a new era of found footage filmmaking.
And, true to this season's theme, it's pure folk horror at its core. Think about it. Ancient legends, unseen forces in the woods, ritualistic death, and a creeping sense that something old and cruel is watching just beyond the trees.
It fits right alongside the of The Wicker Man, The Witch, and Pumpkinhead, movies where the land itself seems cursed, and belief is as deadly as the blade. And helping us unpack all of it is our guest tonight, the one and only Steven from After Hrs Video.
What's going on, guys?
We are excited to have you back with us.
Ready to head into the forest with you guys.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long since we recorded together, but it will be by the time this is released, unless we get you back in for something else.
Listen, I'm always.
But game. We are awesome. We are breaking down the Blair Witch Project from top to bottom, how it was made, how it haunted the audiences, and whether it still holds up in a post-Paranormal Activity, post-TikTok horror world.
So, grab a flashlight, ignore the stick figures in the trees, and settle in. This is 13 Nights of Halloween, Episode 8, The Blair Witch Project.
All right, so Steven, I'm going to give you the option. Do you want to kick off category conversation, or shall I? Based on the scores, I don't know that we want Jonathan to lead.
No. Sandwich or last. That's my position in this one.
I can kick it off. Yeah.
Okay. So the first category we are diving into is the story and how we feel about the story of this film.
I would have to say, I mean, especially with this movie, I don't know if this was a movie that you guys grew up on, but I just remember in a time that we obviously didn't have social media, this was all anyone was talking about when this movie came out. So the brilliant marketing campaign, the buildup of the mythology, the almost in a way like the urban legend of the Blair Witch, I will never forget the impact that the marketing had, let alone the movie itself once you actually get into it. So I think that there's just so many things about this movie that they did right on obviously such a tight budget. But you could revisit this movie years later and it's still just as terrifying. And if not one of the most effective found footage movies that's ever been made.
Yeah. It's hard to argue that, but shall I let Jonathan argue? Jonathan?
Well, this movie came out when I was like a sophomore in high school, in a small southeast Arkansas town. This kind of thing, everyone was all up in their shit about it. And of course, the older Bible thumpers were like, "Oh, don't get into that, don't watch that," whatever.
That's why I wasn't allowed to watch it.
Right? But I mean, it is interesting story-wise as far as the plot itself, just being this small, independent, low-budget crew trying to do a documentary about something that might seem cool but not really overly significant worldwide, and getting lost and then fucked up ultimately, and then it being this whole thing where you're just finding this footage and then only now knowing what happened to these people, even though you've never even heard anything about who they are, they were even missing in the first place, kind of deal. I don't know, it's whatever. It was a cool concept, so I mean, I think it was all right. Yeah.
Okay. So the story, 3 student filmmakers. We have Heather, Joshua, and Michael. They're headed into the Black Hills Forest near Burkittsville, Maryland. If I mess up names or locations, let me know, because I do that in real life all the time, to investigate the legend of the Blair Witch. So it's this low budget documentary that quickly devolves into them losing their minds in the woods. They get lost, their supplies dwindle, and they feel like they're being hunted. Something is following them, leaving behind these piles of rocks, sticks, weird sounds. I love that the real story is kind of told through those clips. Like, they created a 35-page backstory of the witch, including fabricated historical events. And getting ready for this episode, I did some YouTube research and watched a couple other like behind the scenes and stuff like that. There are entire YouTube videos dedicated to the lore around this Blair Witch that are just as long or longer than this movie itself. And it is really fat. There was one that was 2 hours, and I'm like, I'm not watching that one. Sorry. But after I watched a 20-minute one, and then I was like, oh, that was some cool information. And then I watched one that was a little bit longer. There's an hour-long one, and it plays out like a genuine historical, like these events happen. They have, the only difference is they're pulling scenes from like the video game and the movies. But at first, there were a couple stories that I looked up. I was like, is that real? Like, those photos look legit. Those legends sound legit. But it's all fabricated for this film, based kind of on the Bell Witch legends. So the Bell Witch turned into the Blair Witch for this.
Well,
and
oh no, I was just gonna say, it's just fascinating because just when this movie was being rolled out, like, this basically pioneered viral marketing before we had social media,
Yeah. So all of this information was also kind of compiled onto one of the earliest examples of a movie's website. They put up this website, and I'm sure we will get into the website more when we get to the cultural significance of all of this. But I love that kind of, we're watching a documentary of these people investigating an urban legend, but we're also watching what happens to people isolated in the woods, spiraling, running out of supplies. Just that whole idea of like, hey, we crossed this log, we're going to just stay next to the river and walk all day long, and then we somehow end up exactly where we started. That's creepy. That's chilling. Like, I'm in the woods a lot. I go out to the woods to hike and run. We have a park that's 20 minutes away, and I usually see one other person there. And I know my way around it, but when you are just getting familiar with an area, it is very easy to get lost in the woods. It can happen. So I relate to that a lot. I like this story. I think this story is very clever. I can't think of another story like this prior to 1999.
No, I don't. I mean, as far as like folk horror, I don't think that there was anything like this, but I would say as far as found footage, I mean, you had earlier films like Cannibal Holocaust or
Yeah.
with the McPherson tape. Those are all films that come to mind, but this, I think, took it to that next tier as far as like how effective it was with their marketing.
Well, and this was the first major, I guess, commercial found footage film, because we had the Cannibal That movie's a rough watch, man.
Yeah.
That was a one-time only film for me. I'm good. But the McPherson tapes are a great watch. They're just very different. So for me, when it comes to the story of this film and its uniqueness, not counting the many imitators after, but for this film, the documentary setup of searching for an urban legend and what unfolds, unlike anything prior to it. So I have to give it a 5 on the originality.
Right. So, like I said, where I'm sitting with it, it's okay. I'm at a 3.
Okay.
Wow.
This is why we're sandwiching him in the middle.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, I think the way that the story brought found footage into the mainstream in a big way, combined the format with early internet marketing, making it feel real. Obviously, it's relying on realism and ambiguity, and that the effectiveness of the story works on so many levels for it being a low budget horror film. I believe mine for my scoring was 5 for this.
Okay.
And I don't know. I just feel like the way that they built the mythology, even leading up, like in the beginning when they're talking to the townspeople, and you start kind of like crafting together like the mythos essentially of the Blair Witch. It's so creepy. Like I
Yeah.
don't care how many times I've seen it. It's still just very chilling. No matter how many times I've seen this movie.
Yeah. All right. So 553 into the character arcs. So Steven, you want to keep going? Do you want me to take it off? We can keep Jonathan in the middle. However,
No, I can cover this. So
character arcs.
I would say with this, we're given very limited time. I believe the movie itself is an hour and 14 minutes.
It's short.
Yeah, very brisk. We don't get
mercifully so.
Yes, but it's very immersive during the time that you get with these characters. So you have Heather, Mike, Josh. I would say that while it's very interesting to see how these characters definitely this film definitely tests them, we're seeing essentially how the isolation is affecting people in various ways,
Yeah.
and the deterioration basically of sanity for all of these characters and how each one kind of handles it in their own way. um I think that for what it is, with these actors not really having a ton of experience, I thought it was really effective.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh boy.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I
can't wait. I'm not gonna rip you apart.
It's just like the fact it's found footage as a documentary style kind of thing, but knowing it's not real kind of takes away from me on this.
I'm gonna get into that later.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Because it's just there's a certain sense of authenticity and a certain kind of appeal to something that feels real, and knowing that it's fake and it's just acting, it's low budget shit. It doesn't really hit home for me very well. Now, and then there's no arc. They get pissed off, frustrated, lose their shit at each other, and then bad shit starts happening, and the paranoia sets in, and then they're done, disappeared, and who knows? We just all have to know that they're dead. And that's it. I'm just kind of like, eh.
Okay.
Okay. Most of them just bitching at each other.
Jonathan, you sound unsatisfied.
I am so fucking unsatisfied.
That's okay. You're in the same boat I was
I demand satisfaction, sir.
For Children of the Corn. I have zero love for Children of the Corn. So, all right. But I have to argue about the arcs a little bit. We have Heather starts out as the ambitious director. Mm-hmm. She's relentless in documenting everything, but she slowly loses confidence until we see like that iconic scene of her sobbing into the camera, apologizing because every decision she has made throughout the film has led them to this moment. She's been the one, no, we're doing this. And we see how that wears on her as she watches it all go south. Josh is the laid back cameraman, but as he gets afraid and the frustrations arise, he's much less chill, leading to him vanishing before the final act, and some very raw reactions from him. And then Mike is the skeptic, the one who kicks the map into the creek when he loses his temper. And then when they lose Josh, he just shuts down and becomes completely calm, giving, like, you don't know if he's just descended into complete madness or given up and accepted that they're never leaving. So I do think there's pretty good arcs for all three of them. And these are our only three characters. We meet some townspeople who give sound bites and that's it. But it is, I think it's pretty raw, and I think it's pretty brutal and real. I love the actors weren't told how their characters would end up. They received daily instructions on where to go and how to act separately. So they didn't know what was going on with the other characters. That is awesome. His missing status in the film was not known by the other two actors. He just went missing and they were told to react. It's genuine, basically. And the actors were sleep deprived and underfed. We can question that with the lawyers later, to kind of lead to helping them get into character, get into the story. So I do think there's good character arcs. I think it's got real good character arcs. I'm at a 4 on this one. I'm at a 4.
Well, okay then. I'm a 1.
Man.
Yeah, I told you I was gonna crap all over this movie.
We couldn't persuade you at all with our talk.
Yeah.
Steven, you remember yours?
I don't offhand.
It should email you your results, but
hold on, give me 1 second.
That's okay. You were a 4 on character as well.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say, obviously the short runtime kind of works against the character arc, and you're given such limited time with these characters, but what you do get, I think, is effective for the type of movie that's being presented.
Yeah, I agree. It's very much you don't need to know their home life. You don't need to know this detail to know what's going on in this story. So we're split opposite ends on this one. Jonathan with the 1, Steven and I with the 4. This is what makes it fun. All right, the music and sound design. This is one that, okay, we had this conversation before we even started recording. And I made, in our scoring system, I made it music and sound design one category for movies like this, Paranormal Activity, those movies that have no score, because they still have a sound design. So that is why these are lumped in. Not every movie has music. You might, and if you're watching an older silent film, it doesn't have sound design. It just has music. So that is why they are lumped in together in this case. So this one is definitely going to be more about the sound design. And even this movie bucks the traditional sound design evaluation, thinking about the sound design. So Steven, what were your thoughts process going into the sound design for this?
Well, this one's a little bit tough, I would say, compared to like most of the movies that I've covered with you guys. So, what I was trying to kind of hone in on were the nighttime noises that we hear. So the distant cracking branches, the shuffling sound. Upon rewatch, I noticed some of the sounds appear from like multiple directions. So I feel like in a lot of ways, it's effective almost as on a psychological level, for what the characters are going through. The children like voices and laughter that you hear later in the film, I feel like that is really creepy, no matter like how much you do or don't enjoy the film. And I would say the footsteps, the surrounding sound tension, and just the overall raw audio that we're given is, I think that works on to a certain extent, right? I think it builds the atmosphere and it really kind of creates that unsettling tension that they're all going through during these like really terrible circumstances.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so for me, like, there's no music, so I mean that is kind of a bummer. Although it would have been nice to have something a little more chilling at the very end there. I feel like,
So just the cut to silence.
yeah, I don't know, like that's just me being weird about music and shit. But sound design was okay. I don't know, maybe for me, maybe it's a sound system issue, but like I could hear some of like the tree branches breaking and stuff, but like some of the kid stuff I couldn't quite hear, and like I was trying to hear, so maybe it's a sound system issue on my end. But I don't know, there just wasn't much there. Yeah, it's all nature sounds. It's all just live, whatever's right there. So maybe it's okay. You know, it's whatever. It's just kind of there and does its thing. Natural sound.
I love this. I love this because it's, to you, that's a reason to not score it super high. And that's fine. To me, that's one of the things I love about this movie. Growing up camping all the time, laying in bed at night in the tent, unable to see the woods around me, and just hearing the snapping of twigs outside or voices of other campers.
Nope.
I sleep dead to the world. Once I fall asleep, I'm out. So like when I go camping and I've been out with friends and that shit, like once I'm done, dude, I'm not going to hear anything unless somebody wakes my ass up.
Jonathan would be the first victim of the Blair Witch Project.
Exactly.
Yeah, everyone else is running.
I would be Josh. I would be Josh.
Yeah.
I think like those sounds are terrifying. They will keep you awake unless you're Jonathan and you fell asleep right away. The like laying in the tent, not able to see, or just in the dark woods and hearing something behind you. I don't like it in the daytime because I'm in the woods. I want to be alone. So also having it hunt you, follow you, never be able to see like, oh, it's just another hiker. That is off. And I like that it uses the real audio from what their cameras captured. This is an area that it's like, I totally understand why someone might say it's a 0 on this category, because some of it's muffled, some of it's way too quiet. You mentioned the children. There were a couple of times I was like, I can't quite hear that. And then it would get a little louder. And I was like, okay, there it is. But to me, it's also going along with that idea of what we can't see is always scarier than what we do see. And that idea of like, they can hear it, why can't I think that kind of freaks me out a little bit. Like, it must be awful based on their reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bother me that much. But I think the amazing thing about this is it set the standard of what a found footage movie should say. This was the blueprint. And we mentioned this is not the first found footage movie. It's not. But this is the one that skyrocketed it. I put an extra ED on the end of that. This is the one that shot it up in popularity. This is the movie that became a cultural found footage phenomenon. It's possible that without this movie, we don't get Paranormal Activity 10 years later.
To say that.
Yeah. And so this sound design of just letting it be real, and the fact that I found this on the internet, so it could be true, could be made up, I don't know. But it said the directors would sneak into the forest and play sounds through hidden speakers to get the actors' reactions in real time.
Huh.
So some of those reactions are genuine, and I don't know if what they're playing on the speakers is what ends up in the final cut of the movie, or they cut that and just got the reactions. I don't know. It's the internet. Somebody could have made it up on Reddit, but I love that idea. So I am actually, as crazy as it is, the fact that there is 0 music and it uses real life sounds to freak us out, I'm actually at a 5 on the sound design.
Okay.
I am. I am.
Tim, you're selling me on it. I kind of was like a little like unsure of how we can go about grading this, but
I think this is the blueprint for how you do a horror movie without music.
yeah.
It's just slowly chipping away at you by all of those sounds that you can't escape. I think it's genius, honestly. I think it's so good.
Well, it's like less is more. I mean,
Yes.
it's the unseen that is like the most terrifying aspect of it. It's kind of has like some parallels with Texas Chainsaw. I mean, if you watch that movie at face value, I think for a lot of us on first watch, you assume that that movie is a lot gorier than it actually is, but a lot of it you don't see anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of building everything up in your imagination or your viewpoint.
I
So
think that's why the first Texas Chainsaw is a masterpiece.
mhm.
Yep. But yeah, I was a 5. Where do you guys land?
Damn, man, you sold me on this. I might have to. Is it too late to bump it up a notch?
You can
No, you
always
can
change
bump
your
it up.
score.
Okay, I had it at a 3 initially, but I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to kick it up to a 4 on this one.
Okay, right on. So I got kind of sold on it too.
He's like from a 1 to a 2.
No, well, I actually scored it at a 2, but I feel like you make some good points there, guys, and I'm willing to concede, and I will go 3 on this one.
Okay. So Jonathan is up to a 3. And then Steven, what were you?
Was at a 3, but you sold me on this.
Okay.
I'm at a 4 now.
Okay. So there we go. I'm glad I put some persuasiveness to use there. All right. So on to the next, editing and special effects. This one again is an interesting category for this film because there's 0 special effects to be spoken of. So we're talking about the editing here.
Wow, wow, wow.
So go for it, Steven.
I would have to say, if we're talking about editing, obviously it's a little bit. I mean, it's not a little bit. It's all real, unedited, found footage. But I would say the way they go about it is very carefully constructed. Um, it's definitely that this is found footage, or that these events actually happened. Um, and I would say that the structure itself feels very like subtle and naturalistic in the way that it takes place. So obviously we have like the setup at the very beginning. We get about halfway through the movie, we start descending into like the paranoia, and then obviously at the last third of the movie is where things go off the rails. Um, but I think that they do a very effective job at conveying that. You're getting 3 very different tones with the editing as time goes on in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, as you guys have seen, those scenes where Heather's running through the woods, frantic. I mean, it's about as raw as you can get, and I feel like in a lot of ways it kind of captures that as it would be like. I mean, especially by the end of it, where it's just you're just looking for a way out with how terrifying everything is. So I think that the directors did a really really good job at that. It's nothing that I would consider top tier, but it works within the setting for this movie.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm waiting for you to sell me on this now.
This was one. Yeah. Well, I'll let Jonathan go, and then then I'll dive into it.
The fact there's no special effects is kind of sad, but you can't really hate on it. It's just you wish there was something other than just what you see structurally throughout the whole thing in the setup. The editing, it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a found footage thing, so stuff's going to be piecemealed together, as part of the whole setup. It's all right. I don't know. Just not much flair to it to me. It just nothing really for me in the way it's set up.
Jonathan did not love this movie, is what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, when this movie was initially out, not to get off topic, but was like for you at that point, was this something that like did you seek out seeing this movie, or like did it have that big of an impact on you when you initially saw it?
This is the first time I've watched it.
Oh, no way.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't care about it back then. And like where we grew up, you had to go at least a half hour south across state lines into Bastrop, Louisiana, to the movie
Okay.
theater if it was available. And it was kind of a big deal then. So I mean, a lot of people went, and I was a young broke high school teenager, and
Yeah, we've all been there.
I just
Yeah.
didn't care. Yeah,
All right. So that is an interesting perspective because
Mhm.
I also have a story growing up about this movie that I'll tell later. But this movie, the special effects in are entirely psychological. There's no monster, no blood, there's no jump scares. Instead, it is just slow and subtle. I don't even want to say disturbing, but eerie visuals, the bundled sticks, the stacked stones, the children's laughter. The house is fantastic because it's real. It was a real location that shot at. It was the Griggs house in Maryland. It's since been demolished, but that's where they shot it. I also think I have to take into effect for the editing and special effects. It was shot on a high 8 video camera and a 16 millimeter black and white film camera.
Mhm.
So some of those black and white sequences were shot on black and white. It was edited over 8 months, down from 20 hours of footage to 81 minutes.
jeez.
So I think it's tight. And I think, without getting into the cultural significance, the reason this worked so well in 1999 is that this kind of plays like somebody found this footage and cut it down to the essentials and released it to the public. Like
Mhm.
playing with their marketing scheme, you see that the early on we see some of the background stuff of getting to know them a little bit, and then we see those documentary style setup, and then we just slowly to them like setting the camera down or talking to the camera. Her scene of talking into the camera, well, I'll get to that in acting.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of good stuff here, that I think it is editing to go from 20 minutes and know about the production and its initial release. It's hard to. This one is one. It's hard, but I'm at a 4 on it because I think the final result is edited pretty well. There's probably a couple things. It got a lot of crap for the shaky cam, but
What are you gonna
that's
do?
that's neither here nor there for me. You're filming in the woods, walking. It's going to happen. Also, the fact that I'll get to that on direction. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm a 4. I'm a 4.
I'm sitting at a 2.
I am at a 3 for this one.
Okay. So on 2, we got 2, 3, 4 on that. That's better. That's better.
Oh,
I
you know
like that.
what? I actually have a stack of like old high 8 tapes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, old like apartment parties and other stuff from hanging out with friends and stupid shit, man. We should like clip some stuff for that and make like a I want to be found footage kind of thing out of it.
Yeah,
Horror
that'd be
style.
fun. That'd be fun.
Maybe some crime investigation shit.
All right, so onto the script. This is, depending on how much you know about it, this is a fun one to score. So, Steven, go for it.
So there's obviously no traditional screenplay with this. My understanding is that a lot of this with the actors, so with Heather, Josh, and Michael, essentially everything's improvised. Like all the dialogue based on like minimal daily instructions that they were receiving during filming. Um, One thing that I picked up on is that they were told to stay in character, don't share your instructions like with what they were receiving from the directors and crew, and to react naturally. So what I found like was effective with this is that there's obviously a lot of like overlapping raw dialogue. This I feel like is how things would usually play out in an actual crisis, especially dealing with the circumstances that they're going through. The fumbling language, so there's a lot of like shouting, crying, unfinished sentences, and then the very character driven moments. It's not so much, I think, riffing off the plot so much. It just seems like it's more of us really get his characters the way that it comes off. Um, and I know we were talking about this earlier, but it just feels like it's very natural and raw when it
Mhm.
comes to this. A lot of movies, we've covered some other films before in the past, but very different approach with this. And I think that there are a lot of aspects about that work to its advantage.
I completely agree, Jonathan.
I mean, I really have much to say when it comes to script. I mean, with it supposed to be being like more of a natural doc footage, like found footage thing, where nothing's supposed to seem scripted. I don't know. I don't have much feeling one way or the other on it. I would have more to say in the script in regards to the acting more so.
Fair.
It's whatever for me.
No, I think that's really fair, especially in this movie where the script is entirely improvised. There was no script. Like Steven said, each day the actors found new directions placed in milk crates along the trail, separate instructions that put them on each of their characters that they weren't supposed to share with each other. And they were supposed to react on these bullet points and have genuine talks, arguments, fights, whatever. So it was all kind of just real. And so that it's very hard to score the script. Also, I can say that makes this script entirely unique. I'm not this is the only movie I can think of off the top of my head like that, but I'm sure there are others that exist that go off. And I'm sure we've talked about some of them that have a lot of ad-libbing. Deadpool had a lot of ad-libbing. I think that is different than this being entirely improvised entirely. It's like, hey, today you're going to walk in circles. You're going to lose your mind. That's all you have to go off of. The rest of it is genuine. So that on top of, I felt watching it that the script felt so real. It felt like they knew each other. It felt like they were friends. They had just this quippy back and forth. There was never, one of the things I liked, and this, like we were saying, this does go hand in hand with the acting for this film, is that there's never a moment where I felt like they were waiting for somebody to say their line. It's not like I'm talking and then the line comes and then the next person. There's moments where all three are just like screaming at each other over a top, and it felt very real. And that, I think, is part of what works for so many people in this movie is the real nature of the dialogue. And when you do your research and find out the dialogue feels so real because it is real dialogue. They use their real names. Those aren't made up names. They were calling each other their real names to help keep dialogue flow going. So I think that is kind of a genius move when it comes to doing this very non-traditional script. This is super experimental as far as film goes. It could have been the opposite of what it is, which is a controversial movie as far as if it's good or not, but it is a defining film, higher subgenre of horror. So that kind of script approach definitely had an impact, I think. So for me, I'm actually, because of the uniqueness of it, not the fact that, the now iconic I'm so sorry monologue is probably my favorite part of this film. For everything. But that monologue was completely improvised. There was no script for that. She wasn't even supposed to film it that way. She was too scared to fix the camera. She was genuinely that scared out in the woods at night apologizing, doing that monologue that was unscripted, and it is one of the best scenes in the film. So for me, I'm surprising myself here. I'm a 5 on the script because
Well,
of its unique approach to the script.
Well, I'm feeling a little more sold again. I was at a 2, but I feel like a 3 would be more appropriate.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'll do a 3.
adjusting.
I would have to give 4. This. I know we were talking about some of the other found footage, like mockumentary style films earlier on, like Cannibal Holocaust and Man Bites Dog is another one that I could think of
Yeah.
off the top of my head. Those are obviously not completely improvised the way that this film is. I agree with what you were saying earlier, is that I think if you didn't have this film, the way that they went about with, like, we're talking about script, but if you didn't have a movie that laid the groundwork down like this film did, I don't think you would have Paranormal Activity. So I have to give it 4 because I think it's very smart in the way that they went about it for this movie.
Perfect. So we said the acting and the script go hand in hand, and we kind of touched on that a little bit. But Stephen, you want to talk a little bit more about the acting in the film?
Yes. Um, Above all else, we have our main characters. So uh, Josh, Michael, and Heather, and again, there was no formal script with this, so they're going off of like all improvised dialogue. But for actors and actress that have very, very little experience when it comes to this, the way that they conveyed such emotion, distress, like basically, high levels of anxiety and terror. I, it's like catching lightning in a bottle in a lot of ways, and it
Mm-hmm.
feels very raw the way that they could projected that on film.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I just love it because when we get to Jonathan, I see wheels turning, and
how do I want to say this? Like,
yeah, I can't wait to see what he says.
so, oh, man, like, I think maybe there's some aspect to it, knowing when it came out and like how big a thing it was when I was a teenager and not having seen it, and now seeing it now when I'm not a punk ass kid, kind of like how they are in this film. I think maybe has a certain effect on how I feel about it.
Forever be a punk ass
Because
kid.
for me, I was just really
Oh,
annoyed with them. I was really annoyed with the characters throughout most of it. And I was like, I don't want to hear these dudes talk. I'm getting just fed up with this. Like, I'm so bored, and just it just seems like some blah kind of bullshit. And I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a cranky old man or something, but maybe that speaks to how the acting is as being good in a way because I'm being old cranky old man about how annoying they are. I don't know. It just I don't know. Mike, when he's a flip out, a tantrum about kicking the map in the river, felt kind of forced and a little too much for me. I had a hard time with that part of it. That scene. And this, they all like, and in the early part of it, they all seem a little too alike in just like casual attitude and mannerisms. Even though, God, what's her name? The main girl,
Heather.
yeah, Heather. Yeah, she's a little more direct and forceful and like chicken charge kind of attitude versus the other guys. But for most part, they just all kind of have the same kind of mannerism for me. So it was a little on the low end for me. Yeah.
okay. So we mentioned the script and the acting go hand in hand for this movie. Heather is the most iconic performance with that I'm sorry. That to me, that moment right there being entirely improvised is a 5-star performance. Her I'm so sorry monologue into that camera feels so genuine and just raw and terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like all of them felt so natural. That believability of the dialogue with each other goes to their performances. So they were each paid just $1,000 initially. When the film blew up, they received a share of the profits, but they were paid $1,000 to be in the movie. During the auditions, their audition was, "You've been in jail for 9 hours, plead your innocence." And their improvisation to that
Mm-hmm.
was how they landed their part. So the way they improvised their innocence, why they were in jail, all of that is what landed them their roles. So most of them have really gone on to do anything super recognizable. Heather Donahue did some shows like Taken in the early 2000s, and she was in some It's Always Sunny. She eventually left acting to become a writer and cannabis advocate.
Mm.
Joshua Leonard built a strong indie career. He did If I Stay. He was in some Bates Motels and actually has directed a couple of films. And then Michael is working in social services and teaching. So you can't really go on and be like, oh, Academy Award winners. But going into the cultural significance, they had thousands of people believing that this was real.
Mm-hmm.
That is quality acting. I have seen so many found footage movies that I turn off in the first hour because it feels so fake and forced and wooden and not good. And their performances, I think, are convincingly genuine. So for me, I am actually, and most of it is probably that I'm so sorry. And the boring, just dumb conversations that are happening as they're walking through the woods. Those little things add to the believability that these people were real. And I think they're taken for granted in the performances. So I'm actually at a 5 again on the performances. I think they are to be credited as to why so many people believed this was real footage.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I was ready to dump on it, but the both of you have enlightened me more so about the randomness of this whole way they did this and the fact that the monologue at the end was not scripted. That gives a little more credence there, and so I'm changing from a 2 to a 3 again, hand in hand again with
Yes.
style.
It's working, Tim.
doing the Lord's work over here.
So I have to go off of what Tim was saying. So a lot of the things that I noted when it came to the acting was the conflict and emotional breakdowns, how real they felt. The emotional authenticity of them dealing with the paranoia and isolation. They definitely displayed the irritability and fatigue as time went on. And I think above all else, kind of going off what you were saying, I think Heather really elevates this in a lot of different ways, not to take anything away from the other two actors, but I think especially her close up where she's apologizing,
Mm-hmm.
it's shot by herself in the dark. There's real no direction, the shaky framing, her nose is running, she's whispering, like just completely terrified. That is when I felt like it just nailed the or hit the nail on the head how effective this style of filmmaking was. Um, I have to give it a 4 for this, just because I feel like Heather was the one that elevated the overall cast. But again, it's not to take away anything from the other actors. I just felt like she was more effective.
Okay.
Right on.
That leads us to almost the final production element of the film is the direction from Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez. Stephen, you have comments on the direction? This is again, this movie is a weird one. to categorize like this.
Yes, I would agree. So I think for the time between Myrick and Sanchez, this style of filmmaking in a lot of ways was revolutionary, I feel like. In contrast with we had would have been what 3 years earlier we had like the impact of Scream at the time. So there was that push on slashers. This is completely against the grain when it comes to that. The found
Yeah.
footage concept I don't think had been really relevant since what would you say, probably closer to the 80s?
I mean, Cannibal Holocaust was even the 70s, wasn't it?
I think
Maybe it was filmed in the 70s and released in the 80s.
it was in 1980.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's early 80s. And then the McPherson tapes were early 90s,
Mhm.
weren't they?
I believe late 80s or early 90s.
Yeah.
Um but I feel like it's the idea of when I was kind of reading into their philosophy on directing, it's like what you don't see is scarier than what you do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the way that they built up the legend of the Blair Witch or I guess the witch, um, and just it's all leading up to us like basically in a lot of ways it's like a slow burn all the way up until the end when everything goes down in the house. Um, I would say a lot of their directing, it's location based. You feel very immersive. It's atmospheric. I think the payoff ultimately is a result of how excellent the directing is. I don't think if you had approached it in any other way, would you have been able to like really nail the ending. So I have to get them their flowers where they're due. So
Yeah.
So yeah,
This
direction.
is already your favorite category for your
listen,
favorite
I
movie.
Tim, I'm
So,
trying here. I'm trying to sell Jonathan on this. I'm just
Jonathan,
out
you
here.
want me to go next?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead? Let me be the editor
Okay.
on this one. Yeah.
So the thing about this movie is it's not directed in any traditional sense. Like
Mm-mm.
Steven said, it's kind of an entirely new approach to a movie. They used GPS trackers, sent to the actors from location to location, left hints and clues and notes that were supposed to affect them psychologically and otherwise. Their goal wasn't just to scare us, they genuinely wanted to scare the actors. I don't know if you could do that in 2025. Like, it's got to be against some union something, but it works. The directors were recent film grads, no studio backing. The $60,000 budget was funded with credit cards, friends, and favors.
That's incredible.
Uh, and their approach, they called it structured improvisation.
Mm.
So, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of, they risked $60,000 on an experiment that they didn't know would work until these actors came out of the woods and gave them the footage. Like, that to me is insane. They're not on there like, can you do this? Can you do that? These actors were the cameramen. It wasn't. So in my previous research, they hired actors who knew how to work equipment. So that was part of the hiring process. So the idea that the director is not behind the camera watching every shot and every take and making sure that it all is fitting the narrative, it it makes me feel icky inside. I don't like it. It shouldn't work. Like, the director is responsible for making sure everything comes together the way the story needs. And these guys chose to do that in the most offhand way. And again, this is one that I'm like, they weren't in charge of shots. They weren't in charge of like, you know what, that take didn't work, try it again. It was, they basically created an escape room for their actors and then filmed the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, better yet, had their actors film the entire thing. And then they went back to the editing board and said, okay, these are the pieces we need to make the story. Boom, done. That is what makes me so uncomfortable about the way they directed this. And I think it's like, it was a big risk. It was a big gamble. And I think it paid off. They changed the genre of found footage. And that wasn't the payoff for them. The payoff was the massive box office haul that they got from it, but also an icon of a movie. So yeah, this is another one that's like, you can say the fact that they didn't direct it, they weren't there calling all the shots, means it's a 0. I couldn't argue with you that, because they weren't there. It was in the actors' hands. But also everything happening was part of a bigger puzzle written by the directors. So it's another one of those where this movie kind of throws a curveball at the scoring, and how do you approach it? So Jonathan, how did you approach it?
See, the movie just didn't inspire me to think as in depth about it as you guys. You have so much more to say, and I feel almost kind of ashamed, but not really. It's just consider what we know, we didn't know, but do know now. Even then, it still feels like, hey, you guys take these cameras, go walk that way and shoot some shit, and then yeah, okay, cool, whatever, and then we'll just piece together the rest of whatever happens. It just, I didn't feel like, you already said, like, it's a very unconventional way to direct a film because they weren't there doing anything, and it's just them running around the woods with cameras. So I just don't have any positive feelings about it. I just don't care, and it's just, it sits at kind of a dumpy for me. Sorry, hate if you want.
That's okay. So, spoiler alert for tomorrow's episode. You haven't scored anything in this episode as low as what I scored Children of the Corn, so it's okay. I scored the direction here. I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 5 for this. I think that
I was so close to a 5, Steven.
I swear. I think that there's just so much about this movie that all leading up to the very end and that iconic shot, I just think that it took the right pairing of directors to be able to effectively land this, because it's like what you were saying earlier, it's a huge gamble. And if it hadn't have paid off, they're going to be out a significant amount of money to see how culturally significant and successful this film has become. And it's a staple of 90s horror in so many ways. I mean, a lot of that I would attribute to the direction. So that's where I'm at. 5 on it.
It failed $60,000 to American Express is where they're at, plus interest.
Yeah.
The 90s was like, what, 1%? We're probably fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Jeez. All right, so I guess.
What was yours, John?
Oh, what? I already gave you my score.
Did you?
Yeah. So
maybe I
2 on direction.
Okay, maybe I glitched and didn't hear it. It's happened. Okay, cultural significance. Then this, I've been dancing around this the entire film because it's hard to talk about a lot of these aspects and not talk about how culturally significant this film was. So, Steven, take us away.
Yeah, so definitely had a significant cultural impact. I feel like, going back to what I was saying earlier, redefined horror for, in a lot of ways, a new generation. So at the time, there was a lot of post Scream slashers that were coming out at the time. So I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, the Blair Witch Project brought back that raw mindless terror. So there's no visible monster, no gore, no music. it's just the fear of like what we're unable to see and the psychological breakdown that takes place with all of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that it proved that you could terrify the audience without showing anything. We talked about earlier that the cultural impact of this is that pioneered found footage in a lot of ways that other films before it hadn't. I mean, I know we touched on a couple, but with this being improvised, I think that that's like its own achievement, all in its own tier. Um, and I feel like, obviously before social media, this revolutionized movie marketing, especially
Mm-hmm.
online. So to have a movie build out this mythos and this kind of like out of mystery behind it before this movie even came out, I think is just it's fascinating because it's in a lot of ways it feels like it's like some sort of an experiment that they did for viral marketing.
Yeah.
And it blurred the line, I feel like, between reality and fiction because we really didn't know leading up to this movie, during the movie. It wasn't really till after this movie came out that when all the dust settled, now we actually know what was real and what wasn't. So, um, and obviously this movie's been spoofed to death.
Yeah.
Scary Movie, The Simpsons are a few that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, Heather's monologue has been, I mean,
Spoofed.
like, yeah, spoofed in so many different TV shows and movies. So
Isn't it in one
I
of the
definitely,
scary movies?
yes, yep, yep.
It's so
So,
good.
and it just goes to show like this movie was just so important in the 90s. And I without a doubt I would have to say it was super impactful.
Yeah. Jonathan, you wanna go or you want me?
No, I'll go. It's fine.
Okay. You got
This is an okay category for me for this one.
it. Okay.
So I don't know of too many iterations of found footage type film. Not something that I ever really focused on.
Mhm.
I know there's one that there. What was it? 2012 was VHS. I have
Hmm.
on a list. I've been wanting to watch.
It's
Yeah.
really good.
So yeah, it seemed like it'd be a cool one. Here's
A
a
whole
question:
anthology.
Would you consider The Ring found footage? Since it's a tape that you find, like the people are fan or receiver watching, or no?
Technically, no. It contains found footage elements, but I
It's
think
I think it's more used as like a plot device. I wouldn't consider that
yeah,
like
Okay,
traditional found footage.
yeah.
okay. I just
I think that the traditional found footage is like everything you were about to see was recovered after the scene of a tragic massacre or
Hmm.
whatever. Like that is the found
okay.
footage. Yep.
So yeah, so I don't feel too much significance on my end of it because like I said, I don't know too many iterations of it aside from the ones that you guys have already mentioned, with the McPherson tapes and Cannibal and all that.
Hmm.
Um, so it's hard for me to really feel too much into this one. Although there is one series that comes to mind though. Did you guys ever see Marble Hornets on YouTube?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Watch Marble Hornets because that's definitely a found footage kind of thing, or kind of like almost like alternate reality found footage kind of thing. And it was really trippy. And when I first started watching that one, dude, like there's a lot of videos, and it gets creepier and creepier. Oh my gosh, it I would definitely recommend everybody watch that one because that one actually creeped me out in some of those videos because it feels so real, even more so than what we see in the Blair Witch. So I feel like Blair Witch may have been a good inspiration for that
Hmm.
series because that actually kind of made me a little paranoid and a little sketched some with some of the stuff they have in there. So yeah, so there's definitely had some impact. I feel like there in a positive way, but I don't know about anything other on a wider scale.
So for me, I told you I had a story with this going back. I was about 10 when this movie was in theaters. Uh, I remember my neighbor who was a couple years older than me. I don't know if he was 13 or 15. Um, I was the same age as his sister. But I remember him coming over and standing in the front lawn of my house talking to my dad about this movie. And he was talking about like, yeah, it's real. These people went missing. Like it was terrifying. Like that's 13. That's a teenager. Okay. But this movie was also marketed as if it was real. Like Steven said, it wasn't said until after the movie was out that it was not real. Their website was genius for not just the early days of the internet, but today it is a genius idea of like the posters were missing posters of the actors using their real names. The website had fake police documents and all of this. Like a lot of the Blair Witch lore was from the website. The original website was visited over 160 million times by the end of 1999.
Crazy.
Boom.
If we're talking, everybody was talking about this movie, and I remember that from being 9 or 10. Jonathan, you said people were going to see it even though it wasn't on top of your list. It was there. There was buzz about this movie. And it has, as we've said throughout, it kind of laid the groundwork. It was not the first found footage movie, but it was the first one to have such a cultural impact that it inspired hundreds, if not thousands, of found footage movies using the same methods. Even though it's not, hey, let's go to the woods, get lost, and film it. It is, we're only going to use the camera's audio. We're going to use, the director is going to be one of the actors. That kind of approach to the film. Instead of doing a traditional film, that's found footage. It changed the way that is made. We follow people on Instagram in the horror community coming up on, they've been on the Dread broadcast with us, who every Friday do found footage Friday spotlights of other found footage movies. We've talked to a producer who is currently working on a found footage movie down in Texas.
Not too far from me in Fort Worth.
Yep. So I think 90% of the cultural impact of that subgenre, and not everybody loves that genre, and I get it. I can understand why some people just skip over the found footage movie. I get it. I enjoy a good one. Just watched The Taking of Deborah Logan, showed it to my brother and sister. Taking of Deborah Logan is a fantastic little found footage movie. But even that is pulling from the Blair Witch, starting with like, we're here to shoot a documentary, like that. It's all there. And then, like we said early on, I don't think Paranormal Activity would exist without this.
No,
and I think I can go further. I'm not sure Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi would have existed without this. I'm not sure Zach Bagans, whatever the fraud, he's a fraud, whatever his show is, I'm not sure he'd have a following without the entire found footage genre. And now that's turned into YouTube stuff. We have Ghost Hunters all the time. And I think that those are people doing real. Some of them are. I love watching them. I'm not coming down on them. But some of them are using apps that spit out random words that mean nothing. That doesn't mean anything. If you're getting sick, you can get some good footage on there, and it happens. But most of it, not. I think a lot of that can go back to this movie. I think it all spins from this film. Otherwise, we'd be going to uninhabited islands and talking to people who've never seen a cell phone before and then being eaten. And that would be our found footage genre because we'd be basing it on Cannibal Holocaust instead. So thank you, Blair Witch, for not inspiring that genre of film because it's not my favorite. But on top of that, the box office filmed for 60,000, made 280 million, I think, something around that. Insane. Inspired a quick turn around for a sequel that is one of the worst films I've ever seen, but the demand was there. I have no love for Book of Shadows. I'm sorry. I've tried many times to like that movie, and it hurts me a little bit. But it's kind of fun as a nostalgic watch, but it is not a good watch. Yeah. So as far as cultural significance goes, I think it was maybe 2 years we talked about The Mummy, and how the Brendan Fraser Mummy was a defining example of a 5-star cultural significance movie. I also think the Blair Witch Project is a 5-star cultural significance, from convincing the people of the 90s that this was a real missing persons case, to the basically founding the whole idea of internet viral marketing. And then just the fact that we are still talking about a found footage movie shot for $60,000 in the 90s. We're still talking about it today. The most recent sequel was 2016. I mean, it's a big deal. I think this movie's a big deal.
I don't think you would be able to pull off that same level of viral marketing now. It
Unfortunately.
was it reminds me of like the tail end of like that line between when we had social media and when we didn't. And
The good old days.
yeah, but it's like the last of its kind in a lot of ways. I mean, um, Paranormal Activity was very effective in a different type of marketing and increasing the demand for more theaters to show it.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't have the same level of impact as this movie did by any means.
I still think, like, if I'm out hiking in the woods and I see a weird stack of rocks or some bundles of sticks hanging from a tree, I know either I'm being followed or somebody saw this movie. Like, I still I still know. So Steven, did you give a number?
So for my it factor, I gave it a 5 just because not only was this film very important for movies, horror in general, but also it had such a seismic cultural impact in a multitude of ways. The way that it left a lasting legacy for future films, as well as we were talking about, like there's so many parts out of this movie that were, other films and TV shows paid homage to.
Jonathan.
I'm a 3.
Okay.
It's good. It's okay. I have no issues with the it factor part of it. And I just keep thinking back now to the late '90s internet dial-up and Angel Fire pages and Lycos and Yahoo Chess and whatever ICQ. Nostalgia.
RuneScape. All right. So now we're at our score out of 10. You can give your final score while you're at it. And then wrapping it all up, your entertainment value out of 10 with your final thoughts on the film, Steven.
So I gave this a 9, just because of the impact that it had on me when I initially saw it way back when. The just a pure amount of terror that I had on first watch, even all these years later. Um, I think something that I just love about the Blair Witch Project so much is that it does feel real in a lot of ways. Maybe it's feels a little dated, but for what it is, it feels very real. The atmosphere for this movie is just unmatched, and just how scary it would be to be put in this same set of circumstances. The fear of getting lost or being watched. It's just really creepy. The actor or the not the actors, the acting is really raw, and it gets under your skin the longer we get through the movie. And last but not least, we haven't really had a chance to talk about the ending and different ways that you can interpret that.
Yeah,
But
do it.
um, I swear that ending is so creepy. I don't care who it is or how tough someone is. That ending, remember the first time watching it, I just remember that was just on up in my head, getting ready to go to bed. That is just very, very creepy.
Do you know what your final score was overall?
9. Oh, final score overall.
Or are we doing that? You said we're doing those together with
No,
our.
we can do that.
Maybe I misheard. My bad.
Steven, with your changes, you're at a 43, so like 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
Yep.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. I was not really all that entertained. I was just kind of bored through most of it and annoyed. Feeling flat ass like a pancake on a 5. Even with my changes, originally I was a 23. I should be at like a 26 now. Sure as hell not going to watch the sequel.
You're 26. Oh, you should watch the sequel. As like, I'm sure you can find a game for it online because it immediately abandons the found footage format, which I think is what is so jarring to me about it. If you ever saw Burn Notice on USA, that guy Jeffrey something or other, he's the lead in it. It's fine. Hot goth 90s chick, but that's about it. All right, Jonathan, was that it for you?
Yeah, I have nothing more to say about this.
Okay, here's the part that I wasn't looking forward to. Here's the part that I was not looking forward to. I appreciate this movie. I don't enjoy this movie. So I'm surprised that I'm actually lower than Jonathan. I was a 4 on entertainment.
Wow.
So this is the part that like I'm flipping the script, probably surprised, and I don't blame you.
I need to go lay down.
Sorry, Steven. Sorry. I appreciate the crap out of this movie. I love this movie for so much, but I find it so boring. I really do. I'm watching it again. The first time, I don't think I ever sat through it completely until this recording because I find it boring. I've turned it on before. I'm like, how long are we going to just look at leaves in the woods while they talk to each other? And I think part of it is we've talked about knowing that this is not real does damage it for me. I think that damages the viewing because if I watch this as a documentary, it is amazing. If I watch this as a movie, I'm bored. I appreciate the crap out of it. And I do say that's my favorite scene right there. That scene is so good. Mm-hmm. And I do say that it does grow on me each time I watch it. Each time I try, I appreciate it more. I know what they're going for. I see that in this film. I have praised this film, given it so many 5s. I love this film, but I don't enjoy this film. It is not a film I'm going to pull out and watch for entertainment value because it doesn't entertain me. And that is so hard for me to say after I've talked about it so favorably. And that is one of the things that like I think is unique about the scoring system that we use. I am acknowledging how unique this movie is from a production standpoint, but saying that it doesn't really work for me. And then the ultimate twist here that I'm sure if anybody makes it this far in the episode, I'm going to get tons of crap for is that I like Blair Witch from 2016 more than I like this movie.
I jump off the stream.
Wow.
No, and I know.
I agree to disagree.
Yeah, that's fair. I know that it's controversial. I know it's controversial and a hot take for sure. The first time I saw Blair Witch, it scared the pants off me. That movie messed me up. And maybe that's because I saw that one before I saw this one. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I can say, obviously Blair Witch from 2016 despite Adam Wingard going on and making the worst Godzilla movies I've ever seen in my life. New Empire is a travesty. Going on, that Blair Witch doesn't exist without this one. It doesn't. That filmmaking technique, all of that lore, all of that exists because of this film.
You know, can I just say that I still haven't forgiven Adam Wingard for
Are you going to say Showing the Witch?
no. Well,
Oh, okay.
that's amongst a myriad of other things I like problems I have with that movie. But I remember he was coming hot off of Your Next and The Guest, and they advertised in I think it was through the trailer that it was titled Under the Woods, and it looked like an original idea. And then he revealed that it was actually a Blair Witch movie, and it just sucked all the air out of the room because I was just like, this is not what I was hoping for. And the movie, I just personally speaking, it didn't really connect for me, but I'm glad that you enjoy it though.
No, that is totally fine. I know it's one of those hated films online. I love that movie. It scares the crap out of me still. And for people to get all hung up on Showing the Witch for literally like 0.25 seconds, like so short. I'm like, I understand why you're upset, but even if he hadn't, the movie still would have scared the crap out of me. There's just something about, like, I love hiking. I love being in the woods and finding abandoned houses in the woods, which we talked about days before. We haven't recorded it yet because we record out of order. But the movie The Ritual, which we'll get to that one, also an abandoned house in the woods. Great stuff. I love it every time. But yeah, so unfortunately, all of that to say, I appreciate the crap out of this movie. I respect this movie and the efforts of everybody into it. I will put on Adam Wingard's 2016 Blair Witch before I will put this one on.
Tim, you're
So
testing our friendship.
I'm sorry, Steven. Steven's never going to be on the show again.
No, as long as you don't tell me that you like Death Note, we should be good.
I do not like Death Note.
Okay. Real quickly, can we? I don't know if you guys want to, but do you guys want to discuss the interpretation of the ending?
Okay, yep, because that's one of my issues with this film.
Oh no,
that's one of my issues with
Okay.
This film, and one of the things I appreciate about Wingard's version is this film ends so abruptly. I'm going, what? It bothers me. And not in like, because it's ambiguous. That's not what bothers me. It's that I feel like we're finally getting to something and then it ends. And that is frustrating. It's it's blue balling, if you will. Like, we are just about there, and then the movie's over. And I'm like, okay, I appreciate, whether you can argue its effectiveness or not, that Adam Wingard gets us to the house, and then we spend quite a bit of time at that house and see more time manipulation, that someone may be living there. Like, it's far creepier to spend a little bit more time there at the end. I think all of that build up, and we're just getting there, and then he's standing in the corner, and I'm like, is he possessed? Is the witch there? Is she in the other? Like, what is?
Well, it's part of the lore from that Lady Mary at the beginning, where or the guy who said that the person would adopt the children by twos and put one in the corner while he murders the other one, and then they go kill the second one. So you have Mike, who's that first one who's stuck in the corner while she's about to get murdered, is the way I would take that.
So there's a whole documentary on YouTube, if you want to watch it, called, is it Burkittville something? What's the name of that city that they're supposedly in?
Yeah, Burkittville.
It's called the Burkittville 7, and it's about that. The guy who murdered the children in the basement, the 7 bodies found in the basement. And it's fascinating, like fictional documentary. It's fascinating. There we go. And over. But yeah, Steven, go ahead on your ending. That's
So okay, kind of going off what you guys were talking about. So I was taking a look into this and just seeing like different theories of how people interpret how this ending, or like how to interpret the ending. And first of which is that Austin Pars, who's the one that made the children stand in the corner while he killed another. Um, in a lot of ways, what we see at the end is the ritual being repeated.
mhm.
So this suggests that the Blair Witch, or her influence, is basically reenacting these old crimes through new victims. So our characters that we're following. Um, there's also the idea of time loop or reality breakdown, so that the force has supernatural properties. The group keeps obviously walking in circles, compasses fail, and days blur. Depending on how you look at it, the house may exist outside of normal time. And you could also see it as possession or madness, so that the witch may be
Mhm.
possessing or mentally influencing the group. We see that scene where Josh's voice lures them in, even though at that point he's already missing or presumed possibly dead. And you can't help but wonder if Mike may be possessed. That's why he's drawn to the corner. And Heather at that point is basically like unraveling.
Yeah.
So if you really look at it that way, I think a lot of depending on how you view it, but a lot of different ways, like, you can't help but assume that the ritual is still being carried out. Just depends how you want to perceive what's actually going on. It's
I
crazy.
love an
Shouldn't have kicked those rocks. They broke the barrier. And she
I
Yeah.
tried to
love
pick
an
the rock up,
ambiguous
put it back,
ending.
like, nope, you fucked it up.
I do love an ambiguous ending, even though I come down pretty hard on it. Uh, it's one of those, like you mentioned, the time warp that happens
Mhm.
in this woods. That's, I'm sure you can hate on me all you want. I think Wingard emphasized it
Yep.
better when he has those two people like show up dirtier and they're like, "Oh my god, I'm so glad to see you guys." And they're like, "We just saw you this morning." And he's like, "No. How long has it been?"
Mhm.
And he says, "It's been like 5 days." And they're like, "No, we saw you this morning." Like that scene gave me chills. And I
Mhm.
think a little bit more of that, and I am talking probably far more like pop horror, modern day. We need it a little clearer. I get that. But it worked for me, and the compass is not working in that. And then the scene in Blair Witch where they snap the uh what is it? I don't know what they're called. The like stick figures.
Yeah. Yep.
When they snap that stick figure in half and the girl snaps in half, that got me. Got me. I like
You're
that.
not selling me on this. Nice try,
Man,
Tim.
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. But
I'm just
all
messing.
I'm saying is like I like that movie more, but it exists because this movie laid that foundation. I
Mhm.
appreciate the crap out of this movie. I am a 41, even though I came down, my entertainment score was low. I appreciate this movie. I have so much for this movie and what it did. So I am 41 out of 50. So 4 stars out of 5. Steven, you are 43 out of 50. And Jonathan, you are 26 out of 50.
Yay!
And then if I divide that by 3 to get our average, Jonathan brings us down a little bit.
A little,
Damn
just a
it.
little.
Jonathan brings us down to a 37, which would round to a 4 stars
That's
out
fair.
of 5. So 37, 4 stars out of 5 for a social gathering. I do think this is probably pretty appropriate for a Halloween party, since that's what we're headed into.
At a church youth group.
I think it's perfect for a church youth group. Those church youth group kids are going to crap their pants. All honestly. So if I had seen this at 13, my opinion of this movie would probably be very different. It's growing on me as an adult. I appreciate it. As I've said, I just feel guilty for not enjoying it, and I shouldn't. I don't.
I love this movie.
You got the VHS.
I have the VHS. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Did you get the beautiful 4K release too?
From Second Sight.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep. So I got. I believe that one's just Blu-ray, but
okay.
yeah, it's highly recommend it. That was one of my favorites from last year.
I almost dropped the money on it just because I respect this film. It is a pillar of the genre. The artwork on that set was amazing.
Yeah,
I was ready to.
Second Sight always delivers. I feel like because I believe one other, was it Imprint? There was another label that released as well with the Book of Shadows. And as soon as I saw Second Sight was releasing, I was like, that's a day one purchase. I can't pass that up.
Yeah, I don't think you could get me to spend much money on Book of Shadows, no matter what the packaging is, but
it's okay.
Maybe.
This set doesn't come with it, so you're good.
Maybe. All right, Steven, any other final words?
No, I just all I can say is that this is definitely a very very, very important piece that came out in the 90s. It's one of the movies I always come back to, and I put that up there with Scream and Candyman as far as, the importance behind this movie, and I'm thankful that we have it.
Yeah, I'm glad you were here with us. I'm sorry I let you down there in that final category on my entertainment.
It's just when you think buddy.
Yeah, I talked you up in your score even as we went, but it's I gotta be honest.
It's all good.
So yeah, thank you so much for being here. And like you said, I also love Scream and Candyman. Fantastic films. Where can people find you?
You guys can find me at After Hours Video on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, you name it. And then I am a co-host on the Beyond the Blood podcast that you guys can check out on all podcast platforms.
And definitely do that. I did Pet Sematary 2 with you guys.
Yeah.
That was your first episode.
That was a lot of fun. Yep. That was a lot of fun. I had done the My Bloody Valentine episode with the guys, and then that was, I believe, my first episode as a mainstay on there. So super exciting.
Yeah. And then we have got, I actually think I am with you guys for Misery coming up in December. So
yeah. That's a good time.
Love that movie so much. All right, Jonathan, you ready to read us out?
Let's do this.
Okay. That is going to wrap it up for the Blair Witch Project, a film that proved that you don't need a monster on screen to scare people half to death. Just a camera, a myth, and some terrified actors lost in the woods.
It's a movie that redefined found footage forever. I mean, without Blair Witch, there's no Paranormal Activity, no Wreck, no Host, no Marble Hornets even. It showed that fear could be small, scrappy, and still hit like a punch to the chest. Just not to me.
And from a folk horror lens, it's such a perfect storm. It's all about isolation, ancient local legends, and the kind of dread that grows out of belief. Even if you never see the witch, feel her. And that's where the horror lives.
Huge thanks again to Steven from After Hours Video for joining us on this one. And hey, if you're watching along with us for 13 nights, we want to know, does Blair Witch still hold up for you? Drop your score using one of our templates on Instagram and let us know what you think.
Like, comment, subscribe, do all of the spooky things, and stay with us as we head into the final stretch. We're almost at Halloween night, and let's just say the fires are waiting, and this is one of my highest scores for the next couple days. So hang in there. This is The Average, where the real review happens with your friends.